everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucy and in today's video I'm treating you all with a very big book haul. So I haven't filmed a book haul since the summer, so I have a lot of books to share with you guys, a lot of books that have been sent from publishers, but also books that I've bought myself, whether that's for novel research, because if you don't know, I am writing a book and I've just signed for my first literary agent, or books that I have just bought for pleasure. So there are a lot of books here. Grab yourself a warm beverage, I've got a coffee, and let's go. So I am worried that we're going to be here a while because there's a lot of books here, like about 20, and we're just gonna run through them all. It's worth noting these are not in any particular order, literally just plucked them off my shelf and here we go. So the first book is a proof copy and this is Claremont and this is by Leslie McDowell. So this gorgeous proof was sent to me very kindly from Wildfire, which is an imprint of Headline, and this is a historical fiction book all about Claire Claremont, who was the half sister of Mary Shelley and was really swept into her relationship with Percy Shelley, Lord Byron, John Polidori, and that whole circle. And this really follows Claire, who is part of this circle with the Shelleys, with Byron, and she also joins them for that very, very influential summer that they have on Lake Geneva, and all the poetry that comes out of that, but also the devastation and the relationships that really break down because of that summer. And I'm a huge romantic poetry fan. In fact, it inspired my first novel that I'm currently working on. So this book is very, very close actually to not only my heart, but also the themes of my first novel. So I'm really intrigued by this book because Claire Claremont is a figure who had an affair with Lord Byron and also potentially Percy Shelley as well. So there are a lot of kind of like intricacies into this woman who history is kind of forgotten. Like everyone knows Mary Shelley, of course, and Percy Shelley, Lord Byron, but Claire Claremont was there amongst them at the same time, and this is her story. So this is of course a novel, so of course there are going to be moments that are fictionalized, but I'm so excited to just like relive the Byron Shelley circle, and I just love it. This is like my favorite period of history, and this circle of poets are very close to my heart. So this is publishing on the 29th of February 2024 and super excited about this one. Now the next book is a non-fiction book and my boyfriend got me it for Christmas for novel research because the second novel I'm working on after the kind of romantic poets one is actually inspired by where I am from in the northeast of England, and it is set in the Victorian era, not to give too much away, but it also focuses on the mining past of the northeast, in particular County Durham. So I got Black Gold by Jeremy Paxman for Christmas. This is the history of how coal made Britain, which may be a little bit boring to a lot of you guys, but actually like I'm really excited to get to know the impacts of all that. And I've also brought a lot of my dad's like coal mining books for research because he, like my whole family are miners. So this hopefully will be really useful for my novel research, and I thought I'd include it in this haul to give you guys a little insight on like where I might be turning next. And yeah, super excited to read this. I think it probably will not be as thrilling a read as Claremont, but we're gonna go with it and we'll see how it is. So the next two books were very kindly sent to me from Orbit. And this is The Trial of the Sun Queen by Nisha J. Tooley and the sequel, which is Rule of the Aurora King. This is fantasy romance. Both these books were sent to me in one go because apparently this has been a huge self-published phenomenon and Orbit are publishing this series now. So the plot of these books really remind me of The Selection by Kira Cass. Like, let me just tell you what this book's about and then tell me if my comparison is not spot on. So this features 10 women, a deadly contest, and only one can win the Sun King's heart. So it follows Law, who lives with the Aurora King, and he has really spent the past 10 years of her life like torturing her, you know, oppressing her, and when she sees an out in the form of this contest to become queen of the Sun King's court, she jumps at that chance and she really wants to do that in order to escape her oppressive past. She also is planning revenge against the Aurora King, so, you know, if she becomes queen and she has this very powerful situation, she is able to do that. So the comp is Sarah J. Maas' Fourth Wing and The Hunger Games on the back of the book, but all of that really just sounds the selection to me. That's such a YA throwback, but I'm really excited to get around to reading these books. Let me know if you've read them already, my fantasy romance fans out there, and let me know what you thought of these books. Okay, so something a little bit different. This is The Four Agreements, and this is by Don Miguel Ruiz. So this is a practical guide to personal freedom, a Toltec wisdom book. So I have already read this. I mainly bought this very, very short self-helpy, self-improvement, kind of spiritual book because I've been seeing it everywhere. I do kind of dabble in terms of like spiritual self-helpy reading because I just quite like to see different perspectives on how you can like think about things and read and live your life. And this book came up everywhere. Like, this is a very, very popular self-improvement, all about spiritualism, wisdom, how to live your life, you know? And so I have already read this and I really liked this book. I think it was really simple and there's nothing in here that is like groundbreaking or new. This is all stuff you know, but it is really focused on these 4 pillars of how you should live your life, 4 agreements. And I'm not going to tell you what these are because like you should read the book if you do want to know that, because the author tells it so much better than I could ever explain it. So even though these like 4 pillars of wisdom weren't groundbreaking, they weren't anything new, but they did actually make sense in the context of how he explained it and also how the Toltecs have this belief. So I'd recommend this if you're a bit of a spiritual gal and you just want to learn something new, you know? It's quite interesting and I did really enjoy this. I think I gave it 4 stars. So this was an extra short read to hit my reading goal in 2023 and I'm glad I've got it. Okay, a super exciting book next, which I ordered towards the end of last year, I think when it was released, I can't remember, maybe in September time. This is A Lady's Guide to Scandal by Sophie Irwin. This is the 2nd book from Sophie Irwin, who wrote A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting, and that is a Regency romance book. Absolutely rip-roaringly incredible, hilarious, absolutely loved it when I read that first book. This is the 2nd book and it follows Eliza, who was widowed at 27, and Eliza has this huge fortune at her behest, but she can only have that fortune if she is kept free from scandal. And of course she is caught between 2 guys, a roguish poet, which, hello, like very close to my heart, that sounds incredible, and a face from the past. So this sounds incredible, a lot of fun, Regency delights, romance, what more can I ask for really? So I'm really excited to read this book. Let me know if you've read it. Now, I'm not sure if I have already included this in a book haul. I don't think I have, but this is a proof copy of To Cage a God by Elizabeth May, and it's a really like simple but stunning proof copy. It says to cage a god is divine. To be divine is to rule. To rule is to destroy. So this is a new adult fantasy series from Elizabeth May, who wrote the Falconer series, and she also writes incredible Regency romance as Katrina Kendrick. I'm just a huge Elizabeth May fan. I love her stuff. This follows 2 sisters whose mother grafted the power of gods into their bones. Like, not sure how that happens. Their country is on the brink of war and it's really up to them to keep the rebellion alive and, you know, save their country and end the very cruel reign of the current ruling royal family, who have been like possessed by these very destructive gods. So both of these sisters are kind of sent in 2 different directions. One of them is on the front lines with the rebellion, where she meets her estranged lover and has to deal with all that. The other sister has to infiltrate the court and kind of bring it down from the inside. So this sounds phenomenal. I love the fact that there's a lot of fantasy featuring gods at the minute, like God Killer I recently read and fell in love with, and I'm super excited for To Cage a God as well, because it just sounds like fantasy mixed with romance, mixed with everything I love, really high stakes, and I'm super pumped for this. So this is also coming out in February 2024. Huge thank you to Daphne Press and Black Crow PR for the proof copy. Now the next book is another proof copy that I was sent from Harper Voyager. This is Fae Bound by Sarah L. Arifi. Sarah L. Arifi is the author of The Final Strife, which I actually haven't read, and I really need to get onto that because that is such a beloved series. And Fae Bound sounds super, super good. Of course, it follows the Fae and also the elves as well. So I'll kind of go into what that looks like. So this is a world where the Fae and the human race have basically faded into obscurity. Like, they are the things of myth and legend. They do not really exist anymore. And Yelena and her sister are both elves. I think Yelena fights in the elven army. And they have a situation where Yelena ends up getting banished from the elven lands, and Lettel, who's her sister, follows her, and they are trying to make the best of it, being exiled from their homeland. Then they get captured by the Fae court, who are in hiding, and it all unravels from there. So this sounds super interesting. I love the focus on the main character being an elf, not a Fae, because like they are different guys. Read a lot of fantasy romance to know the difference. The elves aren't as popular as the Fae at the minute, so I'm super excited to see where this goes and to see how those distinctions are made within this book. This sounds very like high fantasy to me, and honestly, as a high fantasy mixed with romance girl, like I love that. So this sounds absolutely breathtaking, perfect. Cannot wait to read this. This is publishing in January 2024. It might already be out by the time this video goes live, but wow, am I excited about Fae Bound. The next book was a pre-order of mine that came through towards the end of last year. It is, of course, Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. So I feel like this needs no introduction. This is the sequel to Fourth Wing, and you've probably already read this if you are a fan of Fourth Wing. The only reason I haven't read this, guys, is like for this reason. Like, look at the size of it. And you know, I get freaked out by books that are over like 400 pages. I just can't do it. But we are going to read this book very soon. I have a few books that I want to read before this, but this is next up, and I have heard mixed things about this, but I do think like as long as it delivers on the fantasy romance elements, I am good, you know, like I am fine. So really excited about Iron Flame, and I bought this beautiful Waterstones edition of it, and like honestly, wow, it is stunning. So very pleased I managed to get this special edition, and I'm very much looking forward to reading this book soon. So a very different kind of book coming next, but it is another proof copy. This is Come and Get It by Kylie Reid. Kylie Reid is obviously the author of Such a Fun Age, and that book was everywhere a few years ago and, you know, was just all about the hype. This has been described as a mind-blowing campus novel. So I'm already really intrigued by what that alludes to. Let me just read a little bit on the blurb, because I feel like otherwise it's going to be really hard for me to explain. So, desire, consumption, reckless abandon, money, indiscretion, bad behavior, come and get it. Millie Cousins, a senior resident assistant at the University of Arkansas, wants to graduate, get a job, and buy a house. So when Agatha Paul, a visiting professor and writer, offers Millie an easy yet unusual opportunity, she jumps at the chance. But Millie's starry-eyed hustle becomes jeopardized by twisted dynamics, rising tensions, and unforeseen consequences. Wow, like that sounds super interesting, and a very kind of different vibe from Kylie Reid's like first book. So yeah, I'm really intrigued by this, and I like the idea that it's set at a university. That's obviously the campus novel allusion there. So very much looking forward to this. And this is publishing on the 30th of January. The next book is a really fun proof that I've received very kindly from Michael Joseph, and this is Miss Austen Investigates by Jessica Bull. So this is imagining Jane Austen as an amateur sleuth, and I'm all here for this. I really love Austen spin-offs, and this just sounds like so much fun. So this sounds really fascinating. So this is where Jane goes to a ball and a milliner has been found murdered, and all eyes are pointing towards her brother George, and Jane has got to save him from the gallows. So this sounds absolutely crazy, but equally really fun, and I'm really intrigued to see how Jessica Bull weaves in like the factual parts of Jane Austen's character in this kind of very fictionalized setting, because I think this is super fun in the sense that you know it's going to be fictional, obviously, and that allows a lot of room for play and to bring in really fun situations. So I am all for this and really excited to see how this plays out. Also, you can kind of imagine Jane Austen as an amateur sleuth, because she is just that observant of society, and like in her novels like makes such like sweeping, profound statements about like people, class, society as a whole. So yeah, I can see it. Maybe Jane Austen was a sleuth. So all for this, and this publishing this month in January as well, so may already be out. Next up, we have another proof copy that was kindly gifted to me from Orion Books, and this is The Fellowship of Puzzle Makers by Samuel Burr. This has been everywhere, and this is going to be one of the biggest books of 2024. You've heard it here first. This has been published by Orion in May 2024, and wow, am I excited to properly read this. So it came with a load of fun things, like it's come with a puzzle bookmark. I don't know if you can see that because it's like the most beautifully foiled bookmark, but there is a puzzle to decode on the back of the bookmark. All for that. There is like another thing to unscramble, like a little letter, and then you've got the beautiful proof itself. So this just sounds really, really fun and just like a heartwarming tale. So this follows Clay, who as a child is left on the doorstep of the very enigmatic Fellowship of Puzzle Makers, and he really is raised by them, and he doesn't know anything about his parentage, but he finds like a home within the fellowship. And then when the kind of like head person of the fellowship, somebody called Pippa Ulsbrook, who is a very esteemed crossword compiler, dies, she leaves Clay with one last puzzle, and that is the key to finding out his parentage. So this sounds so fun, like very wholesome, very like quirky, but honestly, like I've never heard of a book like this before, and I'm very, very excited to dip in and see what it's like. So as I mentioned, this is coming out in May 2024. The next book is another pre-order that I got towards the end of last year, and is a book that I've already read, so I'm doing quite well here. This is A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber, and this is the final book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. So it is a trilogy so close to my heart. It follows Evangeline Fox, who is this beautiful, like very like hopeful romantic person who just wants to fall in love, and she suffers a broken heart, and in order to cure her of this broken heart, she makes a deal with a fate called Jax. This is set in the Caraval universe, which I haven't read, but honestly that hasn't stopped me from just falling in love with this world. So this is the final book in the series. I'm really not going to go into what happens in this book, but genuinely it is like magical, like just pure fantasy goodness. It is YA, it's just so whimsical. I absolutely adored the series as a whole, but really I did find this last book a little bit of a letdown. It used one of my least favourite tropes, and I'm not going to tell you what that is, major spoiler, but I just found that trope really difficult to stomach because it was frustrating me so much. If you've read it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But overall, this series is just pure perfection, and if you want a whimsical fairy tale, you will fall in love with this very escapist series. We are down to the last two books, and both of these were kindly sent to me from Del Rey and Century, and I'm going to pick this one first because oh my god, am I excited. This is one of my most anticipated books of 2024, and I managed to get a proof copy of it. It is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. So, you will know on this channel how much I rave about Danielle L. Jensen's The Bridge Kingdom series. This is her Nordic fantasy series. This is the first book in the series, A Fate Inked in Blood. So it sounds super, super good. I am so excited about this book, and it is publishing in February. This sounds like very complex and obviously inspired by Norse mythology. So this follows Freya, who is trapped in a very unwanted, unloved marriage, and when her husband betrays her and kind of rats her out for something to the Jarl, who's the kind of like leader, the lord, I guess, of her town, he forces her to compete in a fight against Bjorn, who is his son, and she's obviously meant to lose. But when her deepest secret is revealed, that she has a drop of the goddess's blood in her, then everything starts to unravel. And the Jarl bonds her with a blood oath to Bjorn, who is his son. And even though she does not want this kind of blood oath, she can't help but feel attracted to Bjorn and find this, like, you know, she's obviously clearly into him, but she doesn't need to be, she doesn't want to be. So this is fantasy romance, of course, and it sounds so epic. I've never read any Norse fantasy romance, and honestly, it's Danielle L. Jensen. I would read it if it was a phone book from her, to be honest. I would read it. So really excited about this one. It comes out in Feb. And the next and final book that I received from Century is The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. I can't believe I have this proof in my hands. This is publishing in March, and this sounds honestly phenomenal. So Catherine Arden wrote the Winter Night series, which started with The Bear and the Nightingale, which is such a whimsical, lovely, cozy fantasy series. So this is a historical fiction novel, of course mixed in with a little bit of fantasy too. So it's described as a young woman searches for her brother believed dead in the trenches of World War I, despite eerie signs that suggest otherwise, in this gripping and powerful novel from the best-selling author of The Bear and the Nightingale. So this follows Laura, who signs up as a nurse to fight in World War I just so that she can get to Belgium and try to find her brother Freddie, who has gone missing. Again, as the book described, there are signs to point that maybe he is not missing, maybe he is still here with us in a different guise. And this book also swaps to Freddie's point of view, I think, as he is trapped underground. And he is trapped underground with a German soldier. So this sounds amazing, like a very unusual, different take on kind of historical World War fiction. And I'm really excited to see how Catherine Arden takes this. Again, this is publishing in May 2024, and I am super excited about this one. So guys, that is it for me today. Those are all the books that I've acquired over the last few months. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Do let me know which of these books you're most excited to read. If you did enjoy this video, why not click that subscribe button, and I will see you very, very soon in my next video. Bye!